6 series films. Adventures. It easily
So I think he still wants to be
was
involved, but
applicable
right
to
now
certain
it's a little
groups.
bit hectic for him.
Yeah, absolutely,
And
yeah. You gotta make sure
our
you're
group
paying
really
bills.
doesn't easily fit in there, like in the series of 6
Right.
events. So now,
Remind me what's up.
so I'm in the
Something lines up where it's still got-
safety,
Oh, it's okay.
environment,
Just course,
facilities.
Right.
I'm not sure,
So,
I know he's supposed to John.
I think what happened was that my little subgroup realized get into this thing, and then all of a sudden we realized now we're way behind on actually becoming a little group ourselves. Like, you know, you sort of have to spend some time gelling as a group and almost from scratch starting to think about what we want to do. We didn't really, as a group, progress within the adventure series.
I've him on the phone several times before, but,
Of course,
so it's funny, cause yeah, all 4 of us have not been in the same room at the same time yet.
At the same time, that is,
Well,
it's
we'll
done
get there,
as soon as you.
just keep trying.
Roger, good morning, how you doing? Good to see you. Good to see you as well. So, right?
This is an operation.
Yes, hi, I'm with Boston Children's, nice to meet you.
Have to think about the same thing.
You absolutely
All the purpose and whatnot, and that's a number of,
Oh, hi.
I think a number of.
Angela Mark, yes, we have, that's right.
So,
Morning, John.
for instance, if you look at,
Good to see you.
height, and Jenny's been up in Boston, so we have basic space from Boston, by the medical center.
Yeah.
And then it's quite a world here in Cambridge.
Possible.
They tried.
The regulations
I know
are
what you
different.
meant.
Yes,
On your side of the river.
yes, yes, they
So
are.
I came from Boston, and I thought I knew we needed
I see, I see.
Of course, we were basic space from Biden, so I got Walker and help from the
Going on.
health and safety from Biden to make sure that we got.
Yeah, even if
Yeah.
it's right now, it's like, by walk, because
Right.
it's tough to get.
And we had some work with some Biden tissue. And
Yeah. So I think just as a group that we're trying to figure out how to work together. Thank you.
We need to have more.
Time to figure out how the group is working and
It's a long race. It's a marathon.
so we have, I'll show you, we have some nuggets. We did brainstorm, we really beautifully listed topics.
Oh, yes.
Like
That's all right.
things that
I
we
get that
know,
question a lot.
you know, we'd be interested in speaking about. So now we're just trying to like chug along and kind of figure out
Oh,
which topics do we choose.
yes, yes,
Which
right.
speakers are,
That's my friend's
would be
opinion.
interesting because I think the whole goal of this is to find engaging speakers. It's not gonna be very successful if you just
Your last name is
put anyone in front of there.
That's true.
And actually, today, my father was on my mother's side, but that's sweet. Go back, go back to see if they're.
Oh, really? That's my father's name.
Hi, Susan.
Already back. No, that's right, yeah.
Basically saying.
And this was up in Manchester, because where did you grow up? Or is it?
Yes, yeah, I
You
grew
know,
up in Montreal, I've
Alright.
been in
values
Boston
that
for
why it's
almost
important.
8.
And then actually, if it's a panel, to have a representative CFO speaking their side, what they look for and what they're, why they're interested.
Because it all came down to the turn of the century to working things and stuff like that. It was amazing, even the Cody's, the more Cody's, and we're having Jones
Yes.
and Smiths combined.
That's
So,
amazing.
That's where we're at.
whereas down here, I never bumped into folks that have the last name.
Yeah.
And it's,
And we're close, but.
Right. Exactly.
It's an interesting,
Times, my eyes, and you have the conversations and going back and forth, English and French, just screaming back and forth.
It's very difficult to find a time that fits everyone. There's always something that will work out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. This come back really easily. I think if you had to do it and it was like intense.
I'm not.
some of those too.
Actually, about 20 years ago, my mother was in Belgium traveling, and she ended up breaking her legs, and she was in Viviers, which is the French section. So I actually had to go over for like 10 days. to get my sister to get
Yes,
me over.
that's happening as well, yes.
And I was staying in the hospital. So that was like immersion.
Yeah.
I struggled because I was able to do things in terms of
Yeah.
eating order food, find my way
Good, how are you?
attention, jambon,
You
like for the
were-
legs, you be careful for the legs, I mean, really good, but you know what, you gotta take the cross.
Yeah.
John, how you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, sounds like you did well.
I made it, so, I got home.
Changed it out.
Goal achieved.
Nothing but 2 years. I was co-chair of the Down Discovery Committee since 2005. I've been doing this for some time.
Who I was,
But it's an average, maybe every third person in the community. And it takes a lot, call, spend a lot of time on the phone, to get home. To get, I mean, it's not, it takes time.
oh, I see. Oh, I should look into that.
Right. Other than that, no, I'm just. Yes, not even a hobby, really. Yeah, not skilled.
In emergencies only.
Yes, that's right.
Well, Paul.
Yeah, right.
Because of the phone.
This is,
So, this go home. When you're like 7, 8 years old, you don't want like a 3-year-old hanging out. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
the Father Vader, who one time in Rainier,
Call in a few times.
Nobody's called in yet? Hi, who's on the phone? Hello?
First time.
Number one. Number one.
Yes.
That little-
Your office wasn't too difficult, it was.
No.
Yeah, all right.
The elevator.
I actually came from North Station, so I didn't.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, it's how about you?
Not so, I'm from South Shore, we have a 30 block.
Yeah.
Down from Dutch Road down, so that's about an hour, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And you're on the advisory board. I know, I'm just looking at that, where's your group?
I'm not even supposed to be here, that's why my name tag is on there.
So
You
do
have
you keep it by
Steve
school
from
overnight,
Lincoln
so
Brothers,
you take the
Marcia.
train?
Really, oh, I know her, she's great. I know her.
That's awesome.
They're good people.
They are. Yeah, but Steve is helpful, he had it for me. Call Monday.
Yeah.
Exactly, as long as the weather is fine, so.
It'll be 2 days.
So I just talked myself.
Wow, terrific.
You're organized.
So you'll bike in the snow? Yeah, you gotta be careful of that.
Well, as you know.
They have the
good job
lanes.
clearing.
Yeah.
I secret on one step.
No, exactly.
The road is 2 days.
Oh, good.
Exactly.
Yeah. Just, I respect it.
Especially, we looked at it a lot.
Exactly. Oh, that's great.
Book order and male, female.
I live at the Roslindale West Roxbury
Okay.
border, so I take the Needham Heights Union Rail into
Yeah.
town.
A little too far to fly.
Yeah. Yeah, we come along with medical area.
Okay, ooh, yes, I'm on. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Who's on the phone?
Bob Wondrick.
Hi there.
Michelle Harrison.
Hi, Michelle.
Hello.
Have you
Hi.
gone online?
Susan Boynton here too. And Debbie Benjamin.
Susan Boynton.
Alex Nevaroskin.
Great. Welcome all. Can you all see, are you on a live stream? Can you see the screen?
I'm on the live screen, but we can't. I don't think we could see that screen. No.
Okay. Well, we'll try and get the cameras to pick that up. All right. Agenda for today. Yes. We're going to talk about our forum attendance, which has been just spectacular. We'll ask for working groups forum progress, an update on that. We'll talk a little bit about best practices, what's been really working. I'll give you an update on the September series, of course, our Adventures in Biotech series, and then the October forums for the series. We'll do a couple of breakout sessions because we need to get more organized on content and selecting forum leads, task assignments, and then action items. Oh. Yeah. Okay, our Adventures in Biotech series forums. These were fantastic. You all did an extraordinary job with marketing and outreach. Thank you. These are numbers that we haven't seen before, ever. Oops. What happened?
Did it become a, did it disconnect?
Did it disconnect? Did. Oh, all right, we're back. For the first forum, Dreams to Reality, we had 154 registrants. In fact, we had to shut down registration. Of those registrants, we actually had 82 attendees, 6 of whom were non-members. June 27th, we had 144 registrants, 90 attendees, and 25 non-members.
Any of the non-members being no-shows at the end of it?
Well,
The people that didn't show, had they paid or?
people who pay are much less likely not to show up.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
But, that's usually how it works. But what's interesting here is that of the no-show, I mean, this is a bit of a higher no-show rate than usual, but of the no-shows, we surveyed them. The majority of them had a last-minute change in schedule and they couldn't make it. And the no-show rate went down with the second one. So as more momentum gets built up with the series, I think we'll see numbers.
If we get 80 or 90, I don't think if we have some no-shows that it matters that much because we're starting to feel that.
They'll be sitting on the windowsill. Yeah, no, this is great. The registrant lists for all the attendees are in the Dropbox, and they are listed by company, job title, member status, industry category, and subcategory. So this is an overview of who's registering for these, who's interested in these. And that's in the Dropbox for both of those, as well as the surveys. You can access those. Working group forum progress. This is what we have for
every group, and we'd like an update on what's going on for these forums. Equity compensation is scheduled for the 15th of August. Oops, goodness, I keep doing this. Let's try this again. Nope. There we go. We're already marketing this. With still 2 weeks to go, we've got almost 50 registrants. It's the middle of summer. The numbers are terrific. So good work. That's been a joint effort between HR and you. Next one, we're looking at September 17th, SEF to CFO. We have an update on that for speakers, and
We're still working on speakers.
so do we have any confirmed speakers?
Lou Arcudi from IDERA gave me a strong positive. I'm not sure I would say it's a done deal, but I think he's strongly positive. And the rest invites are out.
The invites are out, and we haven't heard back. Okay. As far as pulling together a description for the event, we could start marketing, or get an ask out.
Yeah. So we're where we were 2 weeks ago.
Okay. Okay, we've got the next independent forum of the SDMPT, choosing the right CRO. John, you want to give us an update where we are with that?
Yeah, sure. Well,
pull that up.
We talked on Monday, I think, and we have an outline for the forum. It's going to be a two-part type of forum where we have an introductory section, which is criteria for selection of a CRO and what kind of considerations go into that. That would be a slide presentation. There it is right there. That's the outline that we're coming up with. The second part, we want it to be a kind of an interactive discussion with, sort of trying to get two sides of the fence, where people, for example, would say one person would be an advocate of the large full-service type CRO, another one, for example, would be an advocate of a combination of niche providers. That kind of dichotomy where we can promote some discussion about the factors involved, what people's experiences have been in selecting and working with CROs, and we also want to do is make this a kind of a lead-in to the CRO CMO forum, which is coming up following this in about a month afterwards, which is the contractual and partnership and relationship aspects of the CRO sponsor. We are working on the outline itself, which I think is, we've got some fairly good topic points in there. We're going to work on adding a few more, maybe refining them, and in particular working on the point-counterpoint aspect of part 2. We also need to develop or talk to a number of different folks who might be good for this panel discussion in particular. And we've got a few names. We actually have somebody that we think might be a good moderator for this. But that's a work in progress. We need to get that done over the next several weeks, so that I think by the end of August, we're targeting to have it pretty well fleshed out, so we can start marketing it.
Yeah, it's been great you've been able to communicate with the CRO group to collaborate, build up each other's momentum, and share information.
Right, so certainly if they have any perspectives or ideas that we would be able to use and vice versa, we'll work together on that.
I reviewed the document. So my name is Bhavik Mittal. I work on the CRO CMO committee from Morning 12. And I think it's a very good document, and really sets the stage of both CRO CMO selection process as well as the a month later, which is document relationship. So maybe we can collaborate offline.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks, Rick.
All right, so the next, let's just stay right where we are here. All right, so we're well on our way with the October. Yeah, the sooner we can pull a date and just get it on the calendar, it might be easier. We also have another CRO CMO event coming up in Worcester, collaborating with UMass Med, and what this event is talking about the incubator community and their alliance with CROs and CMOs in launching successful startups. So that's going to be very interesting. But it's also going to be open to non-members. So we're figuring we'll have a nice draw for that. Bobby, has the CRO group been involved in planning this yet?
I'm not involved in this one right now, but I can reach out to Raj and Ed to
They
get some
probably are, all right.
information.
Cool. All right, we'll check in with them. So this is well on its way to getting executed. Drug discovery. Is that another, Masha, we want to talk about where we are with that?
I do.
I want the planner.
So we recently had a discussion to kind of brainstorm different ideas about upcoming forums. The closest event is going to be, we set the date already, November 7th, the evening event, and it's going to be by invitation only to address the topics related to the Chief Scientific Officer operations. So we are currently in the process of working out the title, the outline, and the format of this event. And so it's all under discussions right now, but we're also currently contacting potential CSOs to participate in our event. Other ideas that we have for the upcoming topics probably in the early 2014 are going to be topics related to the science strategies or translational research from academia to industry, and how to move different inventions from academia to industry, and challenges in translational research. But it's all still in very early stages of it. But currently we have to put more effort in solidifying and working out the closest event, which is November 7th on the panel, including chief scientific officers. So there will probably be, if we can find 2 or 3, it's great. And we are targeting CSOs coming from different types of either pharmaceutical companies, startup companies, CROs, also a possibility, and to provide them with the networking opportunities among the CSO community. So it's going to be the event restricted to CSOs and probably other C-title people. And so we are currently focused.
And this will specifically be an invitational event?
By invitation only, yeah.
Great. All right, so that's well on its way. Back to...
A question. I have no problem that it's by invitation only, but do you think that you will have enough people?
What we look, the whole idea behind this is to see if we can develop something similar to the sort of CEO type of commiserating events, if you will, that is out there. So we're testing the waters, if you will, if there is an interest among the CSOs to have a similar forum where they can discuss whatever issues, problems that they have. So that's why we're doing it by invitation only. So this is, we'll see how this goes. I mean, there are several ways that this can go. The reason that we have a couple of, that we suggest to do a couple of speakers is that at least there will be some predetermined content to it. And then half of it will be sort of more of a networking over beer and wine and whatnot. And of course, if we get a good attendance, then this can develop into something that can sort of run on its own. And if not, then there is no interest among the CSOs to have a sort of this type of event.
So, Nils and Masha, I'm just curious. I like the idea of a CSO roundtable kind of thing, and I'm wondering if this might be more of a predecessor to such an event. Because this sounds like the kind of forum that would be really interesting to CSOs, maybe a few CEOs, but certainly to a lot of wannabe CSOs and entrepreneurs who might not be on your invitation list.
Yeah.
And going forward, if you get good representation from CSOs, yeah, absolutely, it'd be great to have SBio involved in kicking off a CSO roundtable and get that kind of a discussion going. And just food for thought there. Wondering what you're thinking.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Roger. And I think this. So what we, of course, we'll see when we how long the invitation list becomes once we pull out, because that's one topic for Susan, to pull out the CSOs from the member directory. And of course, depending on how long that is, we're flexible in terms of opening it up for, as you say, the wannabes. And we'll see how this develops, so to speak. This is we're putting the toe in the water here to see what it looks like. If there is any interest, I should say.
Okay, so that looks like it's well on its way as well. Where are we next? BD Finance is going to be organizing a BD, a similar event, BD, sort of like John described it as a TED Talk presentation and a networking event. Do we have a topic for that yet? No.
TBD.
TBD. All right. And you guys are going to be meeting at some point.
Friday, tomorrow.
And you all know, at any time, if you want conference room to meet in here, just call me. I'll see what's available and set you up for that.
Susan, maybe just a little descriptor, sort of background to set some context. So this is a historical event, if you will, simply a mixer type format that's a residual of some of the benefits of the old system, if you will. So the notion here is this event, and we have Novartis confirmed to be the host for it. The idea is to sort of throughout the year have a BD-specific mixer within pharma's organization. And the real goal is here to sort of foment that dialogue between BD, pharma, large biotech, and small biotech specifically. Simply with not a lot of content, so the notion here is sort of a 10 or 15 minute tone that sort of sets a germane topic relevant to what we're looking at. And the idea is that we would, if successful, and it has been successful in the past, mix it and alternate it through pharma. So definitely dialoguing with John and Pharma Days to sort of make sure that we're syncing up with how that sort of mixes with Pharma Days overall. But that's the idea. We've got Novartis on board as a first host. Sanofi Genzyme is likely on board for some point of Q1 next year. So the notion here is an off-site event within the halls of pharma and biotech. So happy to answer any questions. It's still coming together a little bit, the vision and format, but we've got some willing participants, at least with Novartis at this point.
Terrific, all right.
Where's the TED Talk?
A TED Talk? Oh, you should check them out if you haven't seen it. People haven't seen YouTube video of TED Talk. They're these sort of great inspirational luminary type.
Like a motivational speech or something.
Some element of a topic that is at a 30,000 foot view potentially. It sort of paints a macro vision of things that are happening. So in terms of the idea there is sort of we've been in dialogue with a couple of Nobel laureates that may be able to sort of present that type of presentation. So we'll see if we
Sorry,
can.
I was not up to
Sure.
date on the
Sure.
Terrific. I can't afford to go to them, but I do want next. All right, so that's well on its way. Managing the customer CRO CMO relationship. Bobby, you want to give us an update on that?
So the CRO CMO team met about a month ago, and we were brainstorming on various ideas that we can work with in general, not just the the choice of choosing a particular partner, but also how to manage the relationship long term. And one of the things that we came up with is like, as more and more companies are getting into outsourcing and it's starting to become a very mature and successful model, it's the relationship aspect which is important for long-term mutual success that also needs to be talked about. And I'm aware of things that are going on, for example, within Millennium as well as within Takeda organization, to develop some long-term strategies to I guess be more transparent with project management, be more transparent with expectations when you start to work with the CRO, CMO. And as you were talking between Ed, Raj, Peter, Susan, and myself, we thought like a forum like this may really help out in showing the relationship aspect from a business perspective as well as a long-term success perspective. So again, it's an outline that we put together. It's actually right here, but primarily meant on relationship management and strategies that are currently being developed in various companies. We are, of course, looking for any feedback from this group as well as any opportunities to collaborate with the BSDM group on potential speakers or anybody else who may have an idea. We are happy to participate in that. We thought it could be broken up into drug product, drug substance, and then within drug product, drug substance, within a sponsor company perspective and a CRO, CMO perspective. So four speakers, 4 independent research areas, but hopefully a panel discussion between a sponsor group and CRO groups, but with the aim of question and answers with the audience.
It would be good to have success and less success.
I think like as we get further into planning, I think like if this team agrees and if this sounds like a good idea, we can further flesh out the details. But we were going to come up with some topics and like work closely with our panelists to come up with information that people can use and take advantage of. But primarily relationship management is one area which is very, very important for long-term success, and I think that's where we wanted to highlight. One of the potential lead speakers that we thought of, again, we have not reached out yet, but like I know Dr. Raymond Skuczynski, he's my boss's boss. He's the head of the department and is very passionate about maintaining good relationships with CRO, CMOs for long-term success. And I thought like Ed would be a great resource from a CRO perspective on drug substance, but we are actually open to any of the suggestions people have or help us please fill out the remaining 2 slots. The first 2 are okay. The date is November 21st, which is a Thursday, so just prior to, I guess, the Thanksgiving week. So we're excited about it. We hope that, this team help us come through.
That sounds great. All right. We're on our way with that. Next, annual accounting and auditing update. You guys were in on that, and Eve, I know.
Sure, I think you know that as much as we do at this point. So the concept here is the Big Four are conceptually agreeing to play in the sandbox again this year. We're just trying to get the date, and we have one of the Forum Advisory Board members as well as one of the BD Finance members taking the lead. Scheduling has been a little bit challenging, but we're still optimistic that it will come to fruition in the fall, November timeframe. So.
Great. I'm going to, before the calendar just completely falls off the cliff, I'm just going to pin and hold a couple of dates.
Perfect.
So.
Let's hope the wrangling can ensue.
Yes, everybody plays in the sandbox. So we'll do that. That's on me to do that. Marcom. There are a number of great topics that came up. Is there something in the pipeline that we could pull together before the end of 2013?
There's always something. We're still brainstorming, trying to make sure that it's reactive to really what's kind of going on. So more probably in the next meeting. We're focused on the October meeting. October meeting.
All right. If we could schedule a lunch or whatever.
Yeah, we're going to get together this Friday, like you suggested. It's just messaging Mike to get some times.
Okay, great. HR, do we have a topic in the pipeline? I know you've done a fantastic job on putting together, executing Green Part 1. An independent deep dive forum before the end of 2013?
From a few ideas, we talked about immigration reform, we talked about biotech, we talked about organizational development. It's probably worth us just meeting and deciding what makes the most sense.
How to have a safe holiday party.
Party, holiday party.
How to have a safe holiday
Oh.
season.
Yeah, so the calendar is fairly open for December and January. January is the whole time. It would be great to get another independent HR-focused forum up there. So keep me in the loop on your meeting. FPD. Oh, Angela is right here. Alex, are you on the line? FPD.
So Alex is not on the line?
I think it was here.
Yeah, we call in. So Alex and Sika were still discussing a couple of ideas we had earlier on about some of the local drug delivery base, and we can definitely have something for the end of the year, December, January timeframe. We don't have anything specific right now.
Okay.
But we'll definitely keep working and thinking about it. So there's nothing specific right now. A little bit on the oral delivery of biomolecules, drugs, molecules, but we're still trying to keep that around to how it fits with the whole thing, because there's some ideas initially at the beginning of the year, but then we went with the whole integrated framework of the dream and dreaming the dream and all that. So we tried to find something that would match the overall instead of being a standalone.
Plus, your contribution to the repurposing forum was terrific. We had terrific attendance to that as well. So, thank you. All right, so we'll check in on that. L and R. No, oops, I keep doing this. Regulatory issues and biomarkers and companion diagnostics. I know Jayati had a conversation about organizing that. Is that any closer to a date, or we still need to talk about that?
We haven't nailed the date yet, but it's we're talking to Massmetic to make sure that the date match with their schedule.
All right, that's great. All right, so that's in the pipe. The JP Morgan download, I know EU and is talking about that, also BD. Terrific event for January.
Yeah, I think it's still initial brainstorm at this point. So, and it's maybe at an event like that where we ask folks whether they'd be interested in like a JP Morgan primer like a few months beforehand. So as opposed to trying to squeeze something in this fall, maybe we get a sense from them at the download whether they'd want a primer or a prep a few months before in the fall. But yeah, I think BD, Finance, EU have to get together on this.
Right, okay.
And that I think, especially the download for people who hasn't been to JP Morgan.
Right.
Would be very interesting. So, I mean, I think that event, I'm looking forward to already. Because I ain't going, I'm not paying what it costs to go.
That's right, yep. I guess, Nils, in terms of a download, what is it that you would be looking for in terms of a download? Kind of the major discussions that occurred while folks were there?
I think, to me, exactly. So, I mean, so say, I'm not so thinking of the top of my head here, but say that there are, you find 10 companies, 10 representatives that have been there.
Yeah.
Basically for each of them to well, maybe not each, maybe 10 is too many, but just to hear what they came away with. Was there enthusiasm? What was the most discussed topics? And of course, people coming with different, from different angles to that will come away with different type of most interesting topics and whatnot. So I don't think it needs to be particularly structured.
Yeah.
If you can find a bunch of people that have been there, and of course, since this is going to be BD people, I'm sure that they will be reasonably outgoing. So I don't think you need to sort of come up with presentations or whatnot, right?
Yeah.
But just have a brainstorm, if you will, or what people just throwing out what they came away with. That to me would be very interesting here, and of course being able to ask questions as well. So I don't think it needs to be, at least, even in very unstructured, people just telling 5 minutes what they came away with. I would be very interested in going to, especially if it comes with the opportunity to chat a bit more with them.
Can I ask a question on that? Does Mass Bio have any idea how many of its members send representatives to JP Morgan?
Do we know that?
Not with any scientific accuracy.
That's a great
I mean,
response.
we still believe that a significant majority of our members send to someone. And that obviously the JP Morgan conference has changed in the past couple of years too. So like we heard, for example, last year, a little bit of a security crackdown, that people were less likely to be able to get in the actual conference, but we're doing meetings outside and things like that. So we still believe the majority of them are sending people to California in that time frame to conduct that type of activity.
I actually saw Henry Tumori get turned away from the board.
Yeah.
Well, it would be interesting to know how many people go. If there's a chance to survey folks in advance.
Yeah, we can
Or are you
definitely do
sending your
that.
staff, just know, so that, you know, we could kind of ask questions of.
Sure, yeah, we can definitely do that this fall. Just the past 2 or 3 years, we've hosted sort of a Massachusetts delegation reception in conjunction with Holy Coag.
Which was great last year.
Thank you. We just to have a presence while people are out there, and we plan to do that, something like that at least next year. But yeah, I think you're right. Plan to survey maybe sometime this fall. Do you plan to send somebody to JP Morgan, either officially or unofficially?
And at that breakout at JP Morgan, we should make sure we have a printout of Sarah promoting this event back in Massachusetts to give out.
Marcom at its best. Thank you for that suggestion.
Tweet it. Make sure you tweet it.
That's very important to everything you do.
Well, good. All right. Looks like that we've got that one knocked as well. Challenges and successes in drug development and rare diseases. Can you all see that? Eleanor Mladen is the lead on this one. We're going to try and do this in conjunction with Rare Disease Day at the state. So this should be quite event. How far along is that with speakers, or it's still?
We're meeting tomorrow to talk about this. I don't think we've done anything.
So it's definitely in the pipeline, and it's going to be coming up.
Susan, when is the day for the rare disease? What's the date?
February 28th.
Susan, excuse me for interrupting. It's Michelle.
Hi, Michelle.
Could I ask you to ask the people on the phone to put their phones on mute? It's hard to hear.
Put phones on mute.
Anybody on the phone?
Oh, yeah,
Their phone.
Okay, I can do that.
Mute. But please do unmute if you have a question. All right. I'd like to move on now to talk a little bit about best practices. You've all seen this. This has really been working for sharing information, avoiding duplication of effort, and helping collaborate. You know, basically, we need these things to move forward, and you're not alone in this. We have each other to reach out to for traction, and the Forum Advisory Board. Important things are, you know, selecting a lead who keep track of progress, not necessarily do all the work, but make sure that things are moving along timeline. And keeping in touch with us, basically, so that we can market effectively and get you the audience that you need to reach out to. And the template, of course, is in the Dropbox. So a couple of groups that have had particular success. Mark, you want to talk about how you put together and processed?
Sure, absolutely. Because between EU and then BD Finance, we did the June 27th event, which at least based on the feedback afterwards, folks really enjoyed it. It was really engaging. There was a lot of coordination early on in the process between myself and John, as well as the other folks in the BD EU groups. to really kind of get crisp as to kind of who are the speakers going to be that we're going to be inviting. I mean, we actually really leveraged a pretty broad network of kind of working group members to actually get the right speakers there, trying to get the right perspective that we were looking to cover for the event. And then ultimately we had one prep call. We had emails out to the speakers telling them what we were looking for. And then we had a prep call. We actually had to have two because only two speakers could make one, two could make the other. But really trying to be specific as to what our expectations were on the perspective that they should bring to the forum. So that way we could make sure we were getting the representation across all the areas that we wanted and there was less chance for duplication. So I think really outlining expectations for speakers in advance and then being crisp as to kind of what their presentation was. Because you know what, we want no more than say 6 slides. We're going to do your introduction and kind of keep things kind of clean and fast. And then it's just kind of, we actually did share some questions with them in advance, so we got some input from kind of the different working group members. What are the questions that we should share with the speakers, just so that they have that knowledge ahead of time before they step into the room. And in the end, we didn't actually even need those questions because there was so much engagement from the audience, but the fact is we had them just in case. So it's just a lot of prep, clarifying expectations, the perspectives that are needed, and then outlining how you think the morning is going to flow so everybody kind of understands that. And then keep your fingers crossed that your panelists actually show up that day.
They all did. Constantine, and there were a lot of moving parts in producing that particular forum because a number of groups were involved. For one of the more independent, deeper dive forums, I know Constantine, you were the lead on the repurposing one with Angela's help. And then just talk about how, what was particularly successful in making that work.
Well, for us, for this particular event, it was suggested by Roger, actually. And at the initial stage, once the idea was suggested, we gathered input from multiple groups, multiple people, and suggestions for speakers. And we got lots and lots of ideas, and probably 8 to 12 potential speakers. So the biggest time-consuming part was to sort through all these ideas and talk to potential speakers, get a sense of what their topic might be, how committed they are to the event, how it would blend with other speakers. So once that was done, and I think that was the most difficult part, putting the 3 or 4 speakers together and making collecting the presentations and having the call, talking about what the presentation looked like, that was actually pretty easy. But I think that it's challenging to figure out what people actually will present if you haven't seen them present on that particular topic before. So that's, to me, that was the biggest frustrating part, is not knowing what people will present.
So you didn't see the presentations before you came here?
Sorry?
You did not see the...
Oh yeah, I did. So for
Yeah,
the
they sent their slides.
speakers that we actually ended up having, we had presentations a week in advance. And we specifically asked for that because from organizing prior events, I know if you don't make that a hard ask, then you're not going to get it.
Can I ask you, so from what you said, it sounds like you reached out to more speakers than you had at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So did you turn some of them down, or did they turn themselves down?
It was both. It was a combination of the two.
Okay. So how the one that you turned down, how did they take it? Now, this is something that we've struggled with sort of before over the years, so to speak, right? So okay, so now we need 3 speakers or 2 speakers. We know that some won't be able to. So should we, since we're running out of time, should we call 5? If all 5 say yes, then what do we do? Because if you turn someone down, at least there is a tendency that they will be annoyed and you won't be able to reach out to them again. So that's why I'm asking.
Well, I always make it tentative that we're selecting speakers, so it may or may not work. And in the end, it's just that.
This actually has come up, Patrick.
Yeah, we kind of overbooked ours, and it was a little uncomfortable in the sense that I had to call the person up and say, hey, listen, I made a mistake. I thought we were looking for 5 panelists, we're looking for 4. Since you're the last person to come on, you're the loud, you're the first person off. But I didn't say that. I have more tact. But I did just write a note to myself saying, I'm gonna make sure that she comes that day, because if someone does bail or not show up, she is perfect to slip right in there. And she already didn't take it badly, she understood. And if not that, we gotta get her on the one for December, as I'm thinking somehow. Because you do have to manage a little bit of that disappointment, because it's an honor. I didn't realize it was such an honor to people that were asked. Everyone that we asked for was like, cool. They're really excited about doing this. So, yeah.
Yeah, and then if she can be here in the audience, of course, she's going to add color to the discussion. And I know, Bobby, we were talking about for the CRO, CMO managing relationships, having plants in the audience to move the discussion, make it a much more lively event. So that's also something to think about.
So I'd just like to congratulate everybody who's put on a forum so far. I mean, I've been to several of them, and they're really good topic coverage by the panelists, and they're drawing a lot of people, so there's really good networking. I think it's, on the subject of choosing a lead person, Constantine mentioned that I sort of suggested the repurposing one. And, it was like a couple of folks standing around talking, and I mentioned it, and then immediately backed off to see who was going to take it. And it was kind of cool to see that, Constantine took control very tactfully and very effectively, and everybody basically followed the lead because it was clearly a competent lead. And it was interesting seeing the back and forth in the email correspondence looking for speakers. There were a lot of speakers were being considered. There were a lot of, and nobody was being given a commitment. So to the overbooking bit, it makes a lot of sense to explore a lot of people, and there's a lot of back and forth. If you have to kick somebody off, then make sure that you invite them the next time. But it was really interesting to see the give and take in email messages, and a lot of constructive feedback and input, and I'm sure there are other things going on that I wasn't copied on, but it was very cool, very productive, and in the end it was a very well produced forum, and I think the kinds of things that we've seen with this one, and as Mark was talking earlier, these really are best practices that we should be looking to try to implement and continuously improve. It's working.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you, Roger.
One note, and I know our group, in terms of coming back to one of the challenges, and Mark did a great job, sort of the concept of the slides and how many slides each person has. They can have 5 slides, but they can speak to each set of 5 slides in half-hour blocks. So managing that piece of it would be one thing that I think we've talked about for our panel concept of giving a slide limit, but also giving an indication of how much time they actually have, because we kind of got towards the end where you started to run out of time, you started to really keep it. So that piece of organizing it, I think, is an important one that I would expect, whether you have each panelist do set of slides, one question, but if they do, managing that aspect of them internally once they're there to really get a feel for, are they speaking 15, 20 minutes to each person, sort of, so. Yeah.
It's
a challenge.
It's a very challenging thing. It's an important role of a monitor. I had a panel discussion outside of MassBio a few months ago, and one speaker got up and talked for 20 minutes. He was allocated 8 to 10. I said, so I stayed under 10 minutes, right? He said, no, actually, no, it was 20.
And that's part of your ask. Here are your expectations. Here's what we need, and then.
And being clear,
Yeah.
exactly.
So, from what has been working, obviously getting started early, choosing leads for each task, a lead to be a coordinator, a lead to who's going to write the description, who's going to call who, and follow through from there. So, and also, planning way ahead. Usually, 12 weeks is just a standard. And I have you've all seen them. There's a planner template and a timeline guide in the working group Dropbox to refer to. So, again.
Susan, I think we just want to let people know too, since we are getting such great turnout, We have officially bought taller chairs for the panelists, so that's those boxes over there. We have taller tables, so that will be sort of the standard format moving forward, so the panelists are a little bit above the audience. We will have another set of good, nice lapel microphones in January to supplement, because right now we can only technically have 4 speakers with the nicest microphones. So we are sort of adapting our logistics to the new structure. If there are other things that you see that we need to consider that we haven't quite realized yet, just let us know.
Maybe follow what Roger said, maybe you should have the red and green button, so people will know that their time is over.
We've talked about time, yeah.
It can help.
The gong.
Borrow rec sheet is pages with the number on it.
Yeah. And we do that at our major events, and so we have no problem if we do think that's going to be helpful, or you think that the panelists you're working with don't have a real understanding of the time limit, we're happy to print out time cards and have someone sort of do a 1 minute, 5 minute, whatever.
It's a
warning.
lot of times the moderator can get up and stand next to the speaker and start pushing on the side, and they still keep talking.
Right, or I'll be in the corner going like this to the moderator. All right.
Yeah, so let us know if there are other sort of details that.
Yes, please.
Are the chairs like bar stool type?
Yeah, they're taller. They have arms and a footrest, because we know
I was just
purging for 2 hours is tough too. So.
I was thinking for a female panelist, I don't know if it's worth letting them know that that's the case, only because they're wearing pencil skirts or dresses or whatever, it can be a little bit more difficult. Good point.
All right. Series updates. September 12th, we have HR on the lead for Executing the Dream Part 1, Assembling a Dream Team to Build Company Culture and Success. We haven't started marketing this, and we've already got registrations. So this is going to be another really, really good one. We're 6 weeks out to begin marketing. This is live in the calendar. I still need a detailed description for marketing and for putting in our website. So can someone take the lead on that? Okay, and we'll talk about that. And September 26th, we're 8 weeks out on that. Drug Discovery is the lead on this. Robert Sudo did a terrific job. Everybody, we did a terrific job putting this together as speakers. Executing the Dream Part 2, Eyes on the Prize, Strategic Science Tactics, and the Pursuit of Business Objectives. That's all in the website as well. And again, I haven't marketed actively yet, and we've got registrants already. So the buzz for the series is out there. All right. We'd like to break out in sessions to talk about the 2 October events. Selling the Dream, Partner Pairs and Patients. I know Marcom, you have the lead on this one. We need to talk about description, speakers, and who else is contributing, who else is collaborating. So we'll talk about that. And then the October 24th one, Lessons Learned Nightmares. We haven't talked about this in quite a while. And the original idea was, okay, we've come through the whole series from the inception of a dream, financing, building it, on and on and on, all the way to selling it. Now, what happens when it falls off the cliff? Who, fail stories, not exactly fail stories, but here's what happened that we didn't expect, here's what we would do differently. I think that this could be this could be the blockbuster. People love stories, especially our stories. So, well, of course, good theater makes good attendance. My original notes had drug discovery, BDSM, SEFCR. Everybody can contribute to this. So what I would like is, and Roger is the fab contact on this, get together and start talking about, okay, what do you want to say, what do we want this to be about? Who do we want to bring in? who's going to volunteer to be a point person for any one of those or all the groups. So I think we should get started on that right now. All right. October 8th?
Are we gonna do it in a group, or are we gonna?
Well,
So I can give a quick update. I can't stay for another
Right,
all
right,
week,
that's
so I can
fine
give
about
a
it. So
quick kind of
why don't you
update.
talk about that?
I apologize. I work in the building. I was late getting here. No excuse. Sorry I was late. Sorry I can't stay all the way through. But believe me, thank you.
I think it's more.
For those of you guys that don't know, today is actually International IPA Day. Very important to us in the biotech world. IPA is India Pale Ale. That's a beer. So make sure you get your IPA today. And if you're looking for a good time, come over to Sam Adams after work at 6 o'clock. We have a charity fundraiser there for ALS. So October 8th, the focus of this is, at least what we've been thinking in marketing, and folks that have feedback, we'd love to get it, is we've asked 2 of the state's largest insurance providers to come and speak to us about how they put together pricing and how they communicate that pricing to patients to try to meet where we're going in healthcare in this country, which is value, measuring value and trying to apply a dollar to that. So Mass Health and Blue Cross Blue Shield are sending their representatives that help us or help them come up with pricing for drugs to this forum, which should be pretty interesting. We've asked a few different members of the media on whether or not one of them will come and moderate the panel in hopes that we'll get some coverage at the end of the year. That could be interesting. The place that I think we're struggling is that we haven't found a second pharma to be willing to cough up a marketing lead on a product launch to describe internally how they've come up with their own pricing scheme for drugs. So anybody that has a good contact that is willing to ask them, we have one from Synergia that will come and talk about it, but we would love to have a second one. And of course, patience is the most important thing up on that slide. So we've asked a 26-year-old ALS patient from Beverly to come and describe his experience and how he values drugs that he gets in his treatment. So that's kind of where we're at, and we'd love the help filling that other spot from this team and anybody else.
So we need collaborators, someone to collaborate on this. Do we have?
It's going to be difficult to find a pharma company willing to talk about their, because they're going to spill the beans really to others. If it was successful or not successful, they're still going to give a lot of ideas to others.
Yeah.
It's not very helpful. I know. I'm just saying that I think that could be difficult nut to crack. But you say the payers, they're definitely willing to talk about this because they want to get this out. And that of course is very useful for us, since then we know what we can expect in terms of getting paid at the end of the day. But in terms of the launch bit, I think you would get mostly no comments from whoever you bring in.
Yeah, it's been interesting. We haven't gotten, most people are willing to think about it, but nobody's willing to commit so far. We've asked Biogen, Vertex, Shire.
I really think when they go and ask their legal, they're going to say, "Are you crazy?"
Are there any Harvard business reviews that have already been done where then you can actually get that company that was in the review or case study?
It's a good question. I actually haven't looked.
Yeah. Because then if it's already out there in the public domain, they can kind of recap it as opposed to kind of give something away.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
We'll take a look.
An idea, actually, I mean, if there is a consulting group that is working, helping others, if they can do a more generic version of this.
Yeah, there's a couple consulting groups that focus on exclusively on the interface with payers and getting codes and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking that might be a good place to look to get a kind of a more generic view.
Sure.
Because the big pharmas certainly aren't going to trot anybody out to talk about that. Mid-sized groups might.
Yeah.
I can forward a few names.
Appreciate it.
When I get back to my contact.
Appreciate that.
So do we have any volunteers who are willing to help collaborate on this? From the working groups? Help pull in information, keep in touch.
Yeah, they gotta make money too. They, in the biotech, they probably suggest the price or upper end of a price, right?
Yeah. Our group, where we're working with things too, everybody's at that. Yeah.
Well, again, the entire Forum Advisory Board is a resource for you. Reach out to any and all. I know, Dahlia, you mentioned that.
I have someone that you might, if you send me a short description of the kind of the topic, I will then send you a name of a person you could look up on LinkedIn to see if you think that person would be good for you to talk to.
Sure.
Something like that.
I'll hit you up.
Okay. I'll send you an email.
Consultants, commercialization, so maybe they have some ideas.
Yeah, I mean, if we don't get somebody in that spot, we have plenty of, that's where I live in the advocacy world, so plenty of people that can fill that in, but we'd love to get a professional.
All right, well, we'll plan on touching base soon on that.
Send me also.
Yeah, I know I owe you a description, so I'm sure when I get that, it will be out.
All right. And then we'll have something to work from and jump from there. Great. October 24th. What are we trying to produce here? Roger, you had some initial ideas?
Yeah, I think I might have been aggressively raising my hand when this came around. But no, I think there's a lot of different levels of lessons learned. And it's probably going to be difficult to get somebody fresh off of crashing and burning to get up and talk about it. But if there's a lot of individual things like nightmare CRO selections that you bounce back from, which I think would be pretty easy to find. Certainly, lessons learned in BD, interacting with lawyers, what your process was in doing a deal. There's probably we've already in various other discussions, panel discussions, have seen people talk about that sort of thing. And certainly if you can find a typical successful entrepreneur who's riding high but has some spectacular crashes and burns in the past, they'd probably be happy to talk about it. But that's the kind of things I'm thinking of. It's like clinical trial failures that never get published. Nobody ever hears a lot of the detail about how to avoid things that have gone wrong. And this could be an interesting opportunity to educate people from other people's experience rather than having everybody go through the same experience. That's as specific as it was.
Well, so it looks like, from what you said, obviously CRO, CMO could have something to contribute. Biostats clinical trial, John, I'm sure you've got plenty of stories. Finding a successful entrepreneur, you guys, you come up with something like that. And we're ED and legal interface. Constantine, does that sound like a reasonable thing to be able to contribute?
Yep.
So,
Roger, I'm sure that if you want a safety nightmare, we can dig one up for you.
Actually, yeah, I was thinking one of the speakers that you were suggesting for the SEF, the CFO might actually fit more with this, because that was a bit of a nightmare.
Are you thinking the OSHA inspection?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
if he's willing to talk about it, and if he's allowed to talk about it, because that's a public company, so I wonder about that.
The fact of the inspection is public record.
Yeah.
Now, if he wants to give the details of how they got to that point and the aftermath, and how they dealt with the impact on the company, that might be another story. But you know, it certainly would fit in this nightmare scenario.
Yeah, and I personally have a nightmare scenario in a relationship with a law firm that I don't think I'm willing to speak about publicly because, well, kind of obvious. But but there might be, for example, in Konstantine's case, picking up the pieces from somebody who's come out of such a catastrophe, and so you could kind of do the backtracking and how to fix it kind of thing. So
Fortunately, we make a living off of other people's nightmares.
Right. I mean, there's plenty of nightmares out there, but I think like everybody's saying here, it can be very dangerous to talk about the nightmares. If you do it from your own company, you can get sort of in trouble with your boss, and as you say, from a legal perspective, you can then figure out who the other company was that had screwed it up, and then they could actually bring a lawsuit, especially if it's a law firm. You cannot live off of suing people.
I think there is a way to talk about it without, being specific.
Yeah, that's the key. I figured out a way to describe the mechanics of what went wrong, why, if there's an understanding of it, and maybe the next step in how it was fixed or how it might be fixed.
Roger, were you planning on this being a forum discussion, a panel discussion, or was it going to be more of a presentation format?
It would seem to me that this would be most amenable to a panel discussion, because you wouldn't want to have one person standing up talking about flames and explosions for any long period of time. But just speaking in general terms, you could get multiple people to talk about some critical some critical challenges that have come up, and figure out how they were resolved. And if it's, the shorter the better, then you don't have to get too specific. I think it could be helpful.
I was in my mind thinking that, maybe it's like, 6, 8 people or whatever talk for 5 minutes, 7 minutes about their story. So you know what? I'm in biotech and I survived a biotech nightmare. Here's my story. It's kind of like an AA meeting. All right, I'm gonna come clean.
Round table.
So right, but it's a round table, so it's maybe like 8 people that talk about 5 minutes, and then then you have engagement with the audience and back and forth about what did you learn, what would you do differently, but maybe you have like 6 or 8 different short stories.
Yeah,
I don't
maybe
know.
starting off with a Mr. Bill video or something.
Yeah, but it's almost admitting, you know what, I've lived through a biotech nightmare, here's my story, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Roger, another way to think about it is take a visit to the biotech graveyard. There's enough companies that have gone down. People would be more willing to talk about companies that are not alive and then.
Yeah, exactly. And especially somebody who's currently riding high, but has just to demonstrate that you can have some spectacular failures that are decidedly a learning experience and that you can bounce back from.
I can find you some. I can find you some.
Oh yeah. Those are around.
Because I don't think you can do public companies, just too much risk for them.
Yeah.
The last thing you want is their stock price impacted by something they shared in a forum.
One company to think about is Epix, because that was a real sort of high-profile failure. And I actually know the people who dissolved that company.
Yeah, and sort of coming back to the overall theme, that's sort of along the lines of what, on the smaller side, Codon Devices as an example.
Oh yeah, after a lot
of VC money in, the dawn of synthetic biology, their story is somewhat closed. So sort of those that have gone through the clinical trial nightmare piece, but also those that have sort of toyed with a nightmare and a business model decision.
Yeah.
So to
Great
round out
investors
that
in
piece,
Codon too.
something along those lines, are probably a handful of graveyards.
Let me just add to that thought, though, is that, there's always good things that come from these bad things. That's a perspective we can't forget about. In particular, you look at the science from Epix. I know their CF science is actually doing very well back in the hands of the CF Foundation in Lexington. So there's some good things that happen, and you learn a lot of lessons in the failures that happen. So I never forget that. Like Altus, was a great one, but now their science is now living on with Elena and Al Crusta. Bob Galato would be a great person. There's failures, but it's all in how you look at things. You know, the failures doesn't mean you did something bad. It just means that this is what we learned, and this is how it's being done now.
Well, yeah, I spend a lot of time in the North Shore, but I saw Gary Magnet, if any of you know him, gave a presentation probably about 6 months ago that was talking about his path to where he is with his current company, Sage Sciences, and he had a really entertaining and instructive presentation on past failures and how it built his understanding and background to generate all the successes he's had. So it's an interesting kind of day. It's like you see everywhere. If you're an entrepreneur and you haven't failed, you're not really an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Roger, maybe just to think about it too, if you're looking for certain case studies, I mean, clearly there's all types of different risks. There's the financial risk, the clinical or the scientific risk, there's the regulatory risk, there's the reimbursement risk. Maybe you seek examples that kind of hit those different risks so that way it's broader for the audience. Because it's not just one, or it can be just one that brings you down, but there's a number of them that could pop up.
Several different nightmares.
Yeah, right.
That would have the potential to draw a much more interesting, diverse networking group as well.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that was our original vision. Everybody can think of a spectacular fail. To have maybe 5 or 6 or more, just, here's my story from an SEF perspective, here's my story financial, here's my story, biotech going under, and then open it up to the audience, questions. It would be a really, really engaging.
We could have an award for the biggest failure.
That is a spectacular idea. Spectacular idea. Yeah. Bottle of champagne, I don't know.
Seeing Patrick's point, the firm that dissolved Epics, where they make their money is in selling off the IP. They came in and did a finance committee event a couple of years ago, and we named it the Art and Science of Recycling Pharma Assets. So that's really, they started out with, what was a carbohydrate company, Alpha Beta Technology, that was the first one, and put it all the way through Epics. So there's a lot of interesting stories there, and people are very, very interested because there are certain telltale signs that all of those companies follow on their road to failure.
Yeah, actually, maybe like T-Cell Sciences made so many revisions of who they are to now they're whoever they are in Fall River. And they're reasonably
they pivoted,
successful,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
They're successful now.
Did a complete pivot.
Yeah.
That sounds like just a terrific idea. So I guess right now we need to figure out which working group is going to collaborate on this, and then a point person for each group. Just stay in touch and get this moving. Mason, Dick, you have a good SEF fail story?
Well,
sure we can.
You can work on Lou. I got some contacts in the facilities world. Guy that does facilities where I am now might know somebody that could talk about some kind of a facilities-related nightmare, like somebody getting the wrong kind of space or not having the right kind of backup power or something like that creates some kind of infrastructure issue nightmare. So I'll see what he can suggest if Lou doesn't work now.
BD guys, come up with a good fail. Pick a point person for that.
Yeah, I think
Someone
we'll likely try to bring it back to sort of a business model risk and execution story from the graveyard that people are comfortable with that kind of works, and keep it at that sort of macro business model perspective. And there becomes the clinical. Do you want clinical representation, or do you want a sort of service-based profile as well too? So I guess we can just think about that.
All right, so keep the lead on that, and we'll get started on that. Legal. spectacular fails can come up with?
We'll do.
Any good one?
Yeah, it's just a matter of, there's such a spectrum that picking the right one is more of a challenge.
So but we'll share ideas at some point. So, choose a lead on that, and then we'll have a con call. Reimbursement. That was another topic you brought up for fail. CRO, CMO fails. Relationship failures. We'll probably run this by CRO, CMO group.
Yeah, I think definitely the examples that can be pulled from the CRO, CMO relationship management perspective. Maybe I can talk to you a little bit about that. I'm just a little bit worried that it may be too close to the DSDM forum as well as the one that we're doing on November 21st. So,
that's true. All right.
Yeah, that's the main premise of your.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about that. Regulatory, again, that's you guys, maybe somebody come up with that.
Yeah, so I think you have your groups that are participating.
So SEF, PD Finance, and L&R. And then, of course, the universe at large to contribute as needed. That sounds great.
It's going to be,
All right, yes?
I actually wanted about drug discovery participation in this whole course, and it's in red.
Well, this is what I originally had up there. So, drug discovery.
I would like to be a contact person for this drug discovery part of the nightmare because I hear a lot of stories even before the startup and the pharma. And a lot of this is occurring at the stage of translation from academia to industry. And actually it's a cause of many companies to close or to be unable to continue their research in industry because to start with, they have really hard time to reproduce academic science. And a lot of problems occur at the stage of technology transfer that some of these inventions cannot really be licensed to a startup. So I'm sure you are all familiar with those topics, especially those who are entrepreneurs and those who are dealing with science in biotechnology companies. So I think this is a really important part of the nightmares. I just had a client who had to close their company because they were trying for 2 years to reproduce academic science. Can you imagine the frustration, the time that they spent, and the funds, of course, they just could not do it, and they closed the company. And I just wonder if there would be any brave people that would be able to openly talk about it, because it's all around.
But you can use the paper that came out.
And there are all these publications that had hundreds of publications every year now. It's becoming a topic. It's becoming a niche in biotechnology research to reproduce academic data. So a lot of talks are about it. I wonder, I hope we will be able to find a speaker that will.
Yeah, you'd be unlikely to find an academic speaker for that subject. There's probably others who'd be happy to.
But I think on the other side of it, I mean, there's half a dozen of those. The problem there, of course, is in all of those cases, there's a confidentiality agreement with the university, right? So if you say anything, you breach that confidentiality agreement. So it's, it's definitely one of the bigger problems. And of course, that's one of the reasons why it's Pfizer that set up how they work with their Center for Therapeutic Innovation, to as quickly as possible do that translation. But I mean, it is, at least in the cases that I know, I mean, it was sort of one peep and you breach that confidentiality because the university still thinks that this is the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Well,
because they got 12 papers in whatever journals.
It's dreadfully important, I think, if we're talking about this sort of a subject matter, particularly if you're talking about, for example, irreproducible results from a university, it's probably best to not put up slides that have the university logo and talk about specific professors, grants, and all that kind of stuff. But you can do this in fairly general terms.
If we could get that, in that there was a Wall Street Journal article a couple of years ago.
that's
Exactly.
Find something where there was a press release.
Where they actually had Amgen talking about that they put 18 people on on a project. That is, at the end of it, is like couldn't reproduce. And unfortunately, I think you know the university more. There's going to be a bit of a because the university still says, no, this is fine. I don't know why they can't do it. Or not the university, but the faculty. So it's a really hot potato, if you will, to discuss.
Yeah, but
I mean, that's
what makes
it
it
can
very
open up
important
some.
to bring up.
Yeah, no, it's true.
This may be one where you don't want the panelists to actually have any presentation material. It's
Oh,
just
yeah,
all
no,
dialogue.
Yeah, no, this is a, I said the slideshow with the logo on it, this is not a slideshow fodder. If you're gonna have a bunch of people talking for 3 to 5 minutes, you wouldn't have time for slides.
No, right,
anyway.
it's just dialogue. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just stories, and that's the whole goal right there. I think we did one forum like that, and that was very successful because the audience is going to be on the edge of their chairs listening to this. You don't need slides. No, I think that'll work out perfectly. So, drug discovery, you're in.
Oh, the whole thing of that. Because it is a really touchy subject, right? Because if you lay it out completely in the open, you will upset. Of course, you will upset. You should upset the universities, which of course is where we get the ideas from. So I mean, to lay it out too openly and sort of discuss it. That can really mess things up for entrepreneurs as well. So it's a difficult one.
It's very, very hot topic and very sensitive. And
Yeah.
we have to think
If you are
about it.
talking
We
about
don't know
past
that
stories, in the past, then I don't think it's gonna be a big problem. Because people, it could happen, it would happen.
Well,
2 years
I think
ago-
it will be because at least, well, there are 3 cases where I know the details. In all of those cases, it's like he said, she said, he said, she said. The company says can't reproduce it, the inventor says it's worked perfectly in my lab. So then who do you believe, so to speak, right? I think there was one example I heard of where the guy actually said, oh yeah, we can't reproduce it either. So maybe we can find that example. I can't remember who that was.
Well, it looks like we've got our groups together. The next step is, well, we've got Masha lead on DB, so think about lead person for each working group, and then we'll schedule a con call, and we'll get this rolling. That'll be terrific. That will be the blockbuster session to round up the whole series. This will be terrific. All right. Next step and action items. Media packages, we've been sending them out to you. It's the email template, the announcement, PDF flyer, and all of our social media. Thank you for all the outreach you've been doing. It's what's been giving us the numbers we've been getting, really. Share them everywhere. Forum planners, starting out with them using it as a working document. Been really successful, and keep me in the planning group. We'll review the pipeline and get a date on the calendar. So this is what's coming down the road. We have our summer mixer, August 8th, from 4 to 7, 4:30 to 7, right downstairs here in Catalyst. This is right after our Farm Advisory Board meeting. They'll be here, and many of the fabs will be at this mixer. Do come, chat with the fabs. We're also going to be discussing at the next fab meeting, which is next Thursday, an overall theme for forum topics for next year. Globalization is pretty much the first focus. So that's on our agenda. For our next working group meeting, we'll be talking about that. We're looking for, from each working group for 2014, at least 2 standalone forums, not including whatever series come out of the new topics that globalization, and then whatever else the Forum Advisory Board comes up with. So, you know, as we get going, as we get better at this, as it gets smoother, this will be a lot easier. And 2 in a year should be a pretty reasonable number to hit
2 for each working group.
for each working group. Yeah,
Standalone.
Standalone.
In addition to the series that we put on.
yeah, we're going to continue with the whole series model because this has been so successful. We did terrific outreach. So maybe for the first half of the year, we'll have 4 or 6 globalization themed series forums, which are open to non-members. And in between, the working groups will do their own independent forums. And then for the second half of the year, we'll come up with another theme. And working groups will have their own standalone. So think about that for the future. And Mass Bio's member holiday party, December 5th at 100 Tech Square. Represent, come, get out to your networks, have them come.
Well, we want to make it really great, so we do hope that you'll all reach out into your network, your working group, member base, and encourage them to attend, because I know we used to throw a huge gala type event many years ago, but budget's cut back. So we're trying to recreate a really fun event, and it will be nicer than our typical parties with just vegetables and dip, you know. But it's great, the more members we can get. We had a really nice party last year, so please reach out into your network base and encourage folks to attend.
Yep, this is your community, and we want to have a really nice party. And that's it for today. Anybody have anything to add, suggest, questions? All right, I'll send out a recap, notes, and we'll all get in touch.
What's that?
Party schedule for SBI.
Oh, yeah.